When they broke the light barrier, humanity rejoiced. Well, most of them rejoiced. They marveled at the scientific and engineering achievements that allowed the small three-person vessel to bend the fabric of space-time and reduce light years to mere light days. The prospect of exploring the galaxy filled the hearts and minds of young and old alike, who yearned to see the sunrise of new stars over strange horizons, the mysteries that scattered the frozen void between worlds, the insides of nebula, only ever seen through the lens of a telescope. There were some voices of dissent. Not everyone was pleased with how much money had been spent in developing the technology when there were so many people still homeless, starving, and living in poverty on Earth. Some were critical that it was the private sector leading space exploration, arguing that such momentous undertakings should be the province of governments, or ideally a coalition of governments representing all of humanity. And of course, there were those who loudly proclaimed the whole endeavour a sham, faked in high definition, part of a global conspiracy to undermine individual freedoms, even in the face of overwhelming evidence. When they founded the first extrasolar colony, humanity was overjoyed. I mean, for the most part, they were overjoyed. A new world, untouched by the ecological and industrial disasters that have followed the Industrial Revolution, was a safe haven for the future of humans, a guarantee that people would survive if the remedial efforts to revitalize Earth's biosphere eventually failed. It was an ideal of limitless potential, a place for humans to create a new society free from the imaginary geopolitical tensions of a planet light years away. A history yet to be written that would only see humans at their best, at the height of their technological superiority, where the countless mistakes of the past would never leave scars. Naysayers pointed out that it would take centuries to populate the new world. Even the largest vessels could only ferry a few thousand people at a time. Who would be chosen to emigrate? How would the selection process be set up? Who would oversee the process to ensure it was fair? Who would be in charge once they reached the colony? And why did it seem that all of the criteria had the same tendency to exclude minorities, at the same rate as so many of the historic prejudices from previous centuries? But few listened, possibly because they were so often drowned out by the protests of religious groups, shouting that God had given them dominion over the earth, not some world around a star few could point out in the night sky. When they first encountered their first extraterrestrial intelligence, humanity was elated. Perhaps elated is too strong a word. Confirmation, finally, that humanity was not alone in the universe answered many philosophical and metaphysical questions, and raised just as many. The news that there were dozens of extraterrestrial civilizations within the galaxy electrified the imaginations of people young and old, who hoped that alien technology could solve humanity's greatest challenges. Many desired to learn all that they could about their galactic neighbors. What was their art like? Their music? Did they tell stories through books and plays and movies? Or did they have entirely different ways of transmitting their culture that no human had ever conceived of? Some people had questions that were far less innocent. What were these aliens' intentions? Were they going to conquer and enslave humanity? What did they taste like? How long had they known about humans? Had they walked among us, secretly shaping our history for their own purposes? Could we have sex with them? When they went out to greet the neighbors, humanity was determined. They had lots of differing opinions on what to do, but they were all determined. The nations of Earth sent ambassadors to establish embassies and open diplomatic relations. Merchant fleets laden with exotic goods and rare materials scoured the galaxy looking to establish markets and trade. Xenobiologists, xenoanthropologists, and xenoarchaeologists set out to learn all they could about the weird and wonderful worlds humans had never set foot on. Poets and artists began long pilgrimages to take in all that the great cultures of the galaxy had to share, see it through the eyes and hearts of humans, and bring it home for the enrichment of all mankind. And naturally, if they were asked to share what humans had created, who were they to refuse? It should go without saying that there were human expeditions with less philanthropic purposes. A number of fringe militia groups banded together and purchased a small armada, which they fitted out with the latest and greatest of kinetic and energy weapons. Aliens couldn't conquer us if we conquered them first, or so the thinking went. Evangelical groups put aside their metaphysical qualms and set out to proselytize the non-humans, having decided that whether they had souls or not was up to God, but they still needed to find Jesus. Last of all were the stealth ships, built by corporations and governments alike, dispatched with nefarious purposes: to steal, to spy, to abduct, to undermine. They were all, without exception, entirely rebuffed. No embassy could be established as there were no governments with which to entreat. Diplomacy was a human idea. No trade was conducted as rare materials were not particularly rare on a galactic scale, and everything else was manufactured as needed. Consumerism was a human idea. No aliens ever showed interest in being interviewed, surveyed, observed, poked, prodded, measured, interrogated, or in any way bothered by scientists trying to understand and define them. Academia was a human idea. No painter, poet, musician, author, sculptor, or architect had any luck in seeing the artworks of the galaxy, nor did anyone show any interest in seeing the works of humanity. Art was a human idea. The warships of Earth ambushed lone vessels, carefully at first, then with more and more reckless abandon. There was no evidence that the alien vessels even noticed the enormous arsenals being unloaded at them. Their mastery of physics and technology made it trivial for them to absorb the energy to a seemingly unlimited degree. Warfare was a human idea. The first alien vessel to encounter missionaries listened politely for all of 3 minutes, long enough to understand why they were being accosted before abruptly disconnecting and leaving the area at astonishing speed. Word must have travelled quickly because the missionaries never again made it within hailing distance of any alien vessel. Religion was a human idea. No aliens were abducted, no technology was pilfered, no targets assassinated, no alliances sabotaged. Whether it was because of ineptitude or ignorance, or the aliens simply saw them coming long before they could try anything, none of the stealth missions ever succeeded. Espionage was a human idea. When they slunk home to lick their wounds, humanity was morose. How they chose to express their feelings was highly varied, though. Some people were distraught at the thought that they were being excluded from an imagined galactic network of civilizations, where the free exchange of knowledge led to spectacular advances in the understanding of the universe. Some were outraged that humanity's monumental achievements in becoming a Type 2 civilization were not recognized or appreciated by other spacefaring species, who did not require such energy levels, and certainly did not measure advancement in such terms. Some were angry at being ignored, or upset that they had failed to connect, or mad at what they saw as implicit criticism of humanity in the alien silence. Some were simply angry at how different and unknowable the aliens were proving to be. It was a challenging time. It was when they understood the truth, finally, that humanity was united. And I mean truly united. There was something deep in the psyche of all humans that had been present since before people had settled into the first farming community. All humans, whether they were aware of it or not, thought they were special, and the lackluster reception by the galaxy had shaken them to their core. But in due course, humans slowly came to the realization that they were special. They had invented all manner of things to make sense of their existence that no other civilization had ever tried. And that didn't make them interesting, though, nor did it make them understandable to aliens. Humanity's mistake had been to reach out to the universe as if they were meeting humans with scales or pointed ears, instead of understanding what it truly meant to be a non-human intelligence. They needed to strip themselves of all preconceptions of what a civilization was, and try to understand their neighbors on their terms, as they existed. Perhaps not all of their ideas were good ones, but with a bit of luck, maybe humanity could interest the galaxy in the human idea of community.